more than 90% of Albertans are immigrants and descendants of immigrants. Let that sink in. Here's a point. If our grandparents arrived here because of immigration policy, what moral grounds do we stand on when we demonize newcomers today? Before we talk about sovereignty, before we talk about Ottawa, before we talk about separation, let's talk about something deeper. Identity. Because if we're going to build a future Alberta, we need to be honest about our past. And the truth is uncomfortable for some people. Almost all of us are immigrants or descendants of immigrants. And that includes the loudest voices in the independence movement. Alberta did not emerge from empty land. Before the railways, before Confederation, before Alberta became a province in 1905, this land was home to the Cree, the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Dene, the Nakota. Treaties 6, 7, and 8 were signed in the late 1800s. That is documented history. Then came the settlers, Eastern Europeans, British families, Irish laborers, Scandinavian farmers. Later immigrants from Asia, Africa, Middle East, and Latin America. They came under federal immigration policy. They came through government programs. They homesteaded. They worked the oil field. They built railways. They paid taxes. They became Albertans. Today, Alberta has a population of roughly 4.8 million people. Over 23% of Albertans are foreign-born. Nearly 1 in 4 residents is an immigrant. In Calgary and Edmonton, the number rises significantly. Indigenous people represent approximately 6 to 7% of Alberta's population. That is to say, more than 90% of Albertans are immigrants and descendants of immigrants. Let that sink in. Only a small percentage of the population traces uninterrupted presence on this land for thousands of years. The rest of us, we came later. Whether our families arrived in 1898 or 1998, we came later. When we look at Alberta's political scene, whether it's Daniel Smith, leaders and organizers within the Alberta Prosperity Project, and voices in the independence movement, they are not exceptions to this story. They are part of it. Their families, like most Albertans of European descent, trace back to immigration wave from Britain, Europe, and elsewhere, families who came west seeking opportunities. That is not criticism. That is reality. Because the Alberta independence movement itself is built largely by descendants of immigrants who once moved west under federal policy. Here's a point. If our grandparents arrived here because of immigration policy, what moral grounds do we stand on when we demonize newcomers today? Immigrants do not set immigration levels. Governments do. Immigrants do not design federal economic structures. Governments do. If health and housing are strained, if infrastructure is overwhelmed, if wages are pressured, that is policy design, not the fault of the person who followed the law and came here to work. If Alberta is going to seriously discuss sovereignty or autonomy, we must demonstrate political maturity. We cannot build a new jurisdiction on selective memory. We cannot demand fairness from Ottawa while denying fairness to those who followed legal pathways. The standard must be contribution. Are you working? Are you law-abiding? Are you paying taxes? Are you building community? If yes, then you are Albertan. Not because of ancestry, but because of commitment. Here's the truth. Only First Nations peoples have lived here for thousands of years. The rest of us, whether fourth-generation ranchers or first-generation engineers, we are part of an immigrant story. And that story should produce humility, not division. If Alberta wants to control its future, fine. If Alberta wants more autonomy, that's a debate worth having. But let's not pretend we are something we are not. We are a province built by immigration, and any future Alberta, sovereignty or not, will continue to depend on people who came here, work here, and invest their lives here. So before we shout about separation, before we blame the newest arrivals, before we rewrite history, let's remember we stand on land first inhabited by indigenous nations. We live in a province built by immigrants, and the only suitable future, independence or not, within Canada is one built on fairness, contribution, and responsibility. That's not weakness, that's maturity. If you believe Alberta's future must be rooted in truth, accountability, and unity, subscribe, share, and join the conversation, because independence conversation without honesty is just noise. But independence with integrity, that's leadership. I'll see you in the next video.